Hello everyone and welcome to Canteen Cup. This is Scott enjoying this beautiful 4th of July weekend. I wish everybody a happy 4th of July and please take a moment to remember those back in 1776 when we decided to declare our independence. Remember also that it was the militias, it was the people with their muskets, which were the contemporary military weapons of the day hanging on their fireplaces that they grabbed for and left the house to defend their newly formed country. Remember that today. And so, happy 4th. I hope you're frying burgers and going to enjoy the fireworks tonight. I am taking a little bit of a respite today. Over the past couple weeks, I've been lifting a lot of heavy things, doing a lot of heavy work, and my back is not what it used to be. And unfortunately, with a back, once you kind of hurt it, the only thing you can do for it is rest and take, painkillers. In my case, I'm taking a leave, and so I'm almost ready to buy stock in that company. I wanted to take a moment today and talk about a few things that I'm kind of musing about. Some of the questions I've been having in my head, and also, too, I have a new piece of video editing software I want to try out, and I've been kind of working through some of the glitches on it, and hopefully I've got it taken care of. I wish I get my cell phone in better shape because this is take two. Sometimes I'll shoot the whole video and it just will not render it, and I have to take it over again. Anyhow, one of the things I was musing about today, and it's something I have mused about on and off for the last 50 years, is survival guns. And we talk about survival guns, a lot of things. I remember back in the day, a man named Mel Tappan had a book called Survival Guns, and he was, I look back at it now, rather extreme in all the stuff he said you had to have. But I wanted to talk about, what a survival gun, meaning one, and I mean that in the respect of what if you were only restricted to one gun that you can take with you? What would it be? And I'm not talking about this from the prospect of I'm going to put my bug out bag on my back, I'm going to take my rifle, and I am going to fade into the national park and live off the land. It's not that scenario. Really, what I'm talking about is what if, and one of the what ifs is you only have X amount of space in your bug out vehicle. Now, one of my specialties, besides all the normal stuff, is I am pretty involved in communications, specifically emergency communications, and being as such, when I pack my vehicle, a lot of that space is taken up with comm gear. Comm gear is pretty bulky, especially when you're talking about mid to long range communications. And so, if I only have X amount of space in my vehicles and trailers and all whatever, something has to give somewhere. And one of the areas that might have to give is the amount of firearms I can take. I mean, ideally, I'd love to take all my firearms, every last bullet I can find, but that may not be the case. Another scenario that we can consider is, let's say one of my vehicles breaks down, and so now instead of two vehicles, I have one. I have to repack, and now I have to fit stuff from two vehicles to one. Again, something has to give. Or let's say that the one vehicle I had broke down, and now I have to go onto one of my teammates' vehicles. And he says, oh yeah, we can take you, but you only have this much space. So you have to restrict what you can bring, and there's a lot of things you have to consider. And so I've been musing over this yet again, talking about what I would bring. And I want to start off by saying, what did other people bring? Now, the Air Force back in the 40s had the M4 survival rifle. It was a bolt-action, collapsible stock, detachable magazine rifle in .22 Hornet. Now, 22 Hornet was designed or created in the 20s and 30s. It's roughly equivalent to 5.56, not quite as powerful, but pretty close. And they kept that for a bunch of years. Then I think in the late 40s, early 50s, they came up with the M6 survival rifle, which was a 22 Hornet over 410 shotgun over and under combination. Some of you may remember the Springfield Army's M6 Scout. That was the same or very similar rifle. So the Air Force did keep with the 22 Hornet, again, similar to the 5.6. Very recently, I think it's this year, they came up with a new survival rifle for their injection seat kits. And it is a modified M4. It's a shortened barrel with a quick detached barrel. It's got a folding pistol grip and a collapsible stock, and so it's able to fit into an injection seat. It fires 5.56. Now, you can see where I'm kind of going with this, is that, you know, my thoughts are, you know, sticking with that family, the 22 caliber, 22 Hornet 5.56. That was my wife telling me lunch is ready. Cartridge power. It's lightweight. You can pack a whole lot of them into a small space. They take standard. You can fit them with the AR, which many people have, so the ammunition is readily available. And at least where I live right now, it'll kill anything that needs killing on 2 or 4 legs. So it's a very wise cartridge that if you are limited in space, and I'm not, you know, I guess I'm not talking about walking off into the national forest, but if you are somehow restricted in space, that's a good cartridge to go by. And the rifle I choose is a bolt action rifle with a detachable box magazine. And the reason why I picked that is a bolt action digests more types of that cartridge, low power, high power, long, short, and it's also more reliable. There's not quite as many moving parts. ARs, while they're great weapons, they can be finicky when it comes to ammunition. They require a little bit more maintenance and care. So if I'm restricting myself down to just one, it'd be a bolt action 5.56 cartridge rifle with a box magazine and a scope. Now I have a Mossberg MPP that I use for that purpose. It's their Patriot. It's got iron sights and it's got a scope on it. I've got a loophole 2x7 scope. It is extremely accurate, and it's got a much better trigger. It's a robust rifle. I can bounce it around. So that is my choice. Is it the best? You know, is it the best rifle I can bring with me? Probably not. But given a certain amount of criteria, it's the best for that particular moment. I mean, I love to bring all my rifles with me everywhere I go with all my bullets, but sometimes that may happen. So at least in the back of your head, you need to keep a thought, what if I can only bring one? And in my case, that's what I would be. The other thing I wish to talk about real quick is my get-home bag. I have a get-home bag, and I use it, I take it everywhere I go, and it's got enough stuff to get me back home. It's also pretty much my complete bug-out bag, except for things like sleeping gear and an extra change of clothes and stuff, and a few other extra things. But it is it could very easily be my bug-out bag. But I have been noticing that it has been getting heavy, and it's time for me to go back through it and weed out all the stuff I really don't need. In today's world, with all this consumerism, you know, we just buy tons and tons of stuff, and then we end up just throwing it in the bag, and you know, after a while your bag gets heavy and your bag gets full. It's time for me to go back through and pull all that stuff out. You know, really, we don't need all that stuff. You know, people just tell us we need it, so we buy it, but we really just need to, you know, 2 is 1, 1 is none, you know, 3 is primo, 4 is, you know, what, you need to stop. You know, when I grew up, we didn't need all that stuff, and we got along just fine. And so I'm going through, I need to lighten my load, I need to get it back to fighting weight, so that I can have room for maybe some other stuff that I might need. But in general, my bag has gotten heavy, so I need to take care of that. One of the main differences between the stuff I used back when I was growing up and in the Army and now is cell phones. We didn't have cell phones back then. There was no such thing as a cell phone. It wasn't even a figment of somebody's imagination. And so, but I've come to like a cell phone. I use it a lot. I keep a lot of information on it. Maps, GPS, survival manuals, first aid manuals. There's a lot of information I keep on a cell phone. And so it behooves me to keep it alive. Even though the cell service may not work, I can still use it. I've got maps downloaded onto my phone that'll work even when I'm disconnected from my cell phone provider. So I do keep some stuff to keep it alive. I keep a battery bank. I keep ways of charging it. And that takes a little weight, a little space, but I think it's worth it considering the amount of information I have at, on my in my hand, so to speak. These phones have been tested. A lot of these phones have been tested against EMP machines, and they survive. So I'm not worried about that. So that's all I got. Just musing today on the 4th of July. Just taking it easy a little bit. Thought I'd shoot a YouTube video. You all enjoy the holiday. Remember where we came from. Remember where we're going. Stay safe and stay secure.